Peace and blessings of God be with all of you, and welcome to another episode of our Ramadan podcast. Today, I'm quite delighted to have with us a very dear friend of mine and a servant leader of our community, someone who I've known for close to a decade here in New York, Queens. And I would like to have this important discourse and discussion with him. I'm honored that he find the time for us to have this discussion. And he is no other than Japneet Singh. I will ask him to introduce himself a little bit, but he is of the Sikh faith. And I want to say that I from the Islamic faith and religious background in terms of being a Muslim, and I'll say that our brothers as a Sikh, that I see myself have so much in common with him, and I'm delighted to have this discourse with him. So thank you so much, brother, for taking time off from a busy schedule for us to have this discourse. And maybe you can take a moment in introducing yourself a little bit, and we'll start our discussion from there.
Assalamu alaikum, first and foremost. Safrika, Vargiki Kasa, Vargiki Fatih. Thank you for creating this space, right? Like you mentioned, we've known each other for such a long time, and not only as community servants and just, doing what we do in the community, but also as brothers,
Yes.
traveling around the world.
Yeah.
It happened because of you, right? And it was such for a noble cause. We'll get into that a little bit
Yeah,
later on, but that's who I am, right? Just no matter if you're Sikh, Muslim, if you're a human being and you need help, I want to be able to help in whatever way I can. So, I had my humble beginnings into the journey of public service at an early age of 19 when I was a student leader at Queens College, and I was part of student senate at that time.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of found that love to, like, to kind of, once you feel that you're making a positive change in someone's life, you can't take that back. No matter how much money you make, no matter how much success you get in life, in your personal life, when you can benefit someone in a positive way, that isn't your family member or that isn't your spouse, there's no feeling like that. And I think that's what drove me to do all the things I'm doing now in real life, whether it is community service, whether it's running for office, whether it is traveling to Egypt to
Yeah.
serve humanity, whatever we can do as an individual basis to help.
At this particular point, because you're not running for office. You're here as a servant leader, and you're here as someone that I know as a youngster that I do somehow admire greatly. And I say this from the bottom of my heart, bro. I say this because I see your dedication, right? And a point to emphasize is that we're in the midst of a cold season, and I saw you going out there trying to create a space and being out there telling people that there is this space where you can get some warmth, putting yourself out there, not for recognition, not for anything else. And I think that by itself speaks volume, and it sends a strong message. And that message is that we may be people who are different, different color, different religion, different creed, but that common good that binds us as human beings to not only look for our interests, but also look out for the less fortunate. You are from the Sikh community, and both Sikhism and Islam emphasize service to humanity. Can you share with us why do you think servicing others is so central and meaningful to our spiritual faith?
No, I think you hit it on the head, right? I think faith is what got me into this work. I think Sikhism in specific is so rooted in helping everyone, right? Whether you go to our Gurdwara, a Sikh temple, you sit on the same floor, no matter who you are, no matter what faith you belong to, and you can get a free meal. Right? And that is 7 days a week from 3 in the morning all the way to 10 p.m. all around the world. So when I first started my community work, the idea was that how can I take this beautiful concept that we call langar and seva and bring it out into the real world.
Yes.
So we can show that we're not only doing it for our own folks, we're doing it for everybody, right? So I think like when I met you along the way, again, we met during, I think one of the biggest projects we worked on together was doing the migrant crisis.
Yeah.
where again, whether you're Sikh, whether you're Muslim, whatever religion you're from, we saw thousands of people needing real help, and you were very gracious. You sponsored thousands of meals from your own pocket and from the congregation of the masjid you serve at. That was a huge help to so many people. And that wasn't only during Ramadan, right? Which would be okay, cool. Like if we're doing it during Ramadan, it's like we're doing it for get the extra blessing, right? But you were doing it even when it wasn't Ramadan, right?
Yeah.
So I think that faith component is so key for us to do that whether it's Ramadan, whether it's Basaki for us, whether it's a holy time of year for us or not, we are doing it every single day, no matter what time of the year it is.
Yeah. And it's necessary to highlight that they have so much commonality between faiths, right? You mentioned about the Vasak in your faith, and for us, we believe that feeding and assisting the less fortunate or those that are in need is an integral part of our faith. A matter of fact, when the Prophet migrated, we were speaking a few minutes about the migration, right? Here is that the Prophet was prosecuted and his people, and they migrated from Mecca to Medina. And when he went to Medina, think about the first message that he mentioned to the people. He says, Ifshu salam, spread peace, wa'at'imu ta'am, and feed the indigent. He said, make sure that the indigent and the poor and the people are in need, they have something to eat. They have a morsel of food to eat. And then he encouraged people to engage in prayer. So I think this is an integral part of our faith. And for me, also, we learn from our faith, and we also do not forget as human beings. I think that's a lot of people forget where their journey begins from. To develop our faith wants us to develop empathy, because when we fast, we experience that hunger and that thirst, right? So when a poor man comes and knocks at your door and you see that the guy is suffering because he needs a blanket or he needs like the work that you do, right? And the work that your good worker do. And people see you out there and they think it's all about a photo app, right? That you're out there and you're looking for recognition, but not knowing that the service is not to get plaques and recognition, but it's basically embedded and enshrining our faith to help.
To touch upon that, like for example, we may post a photo or video, but there's hours of work that isn't encapsulated in that photo or video.
Yeah.
Like that video I posted the other day about if you need shelter, you can go to a warming center or a warming bus.
Yeah.
But I didn't post a video of us actually picking up people from Harlem, from Jamaica, from Howard Beach, and taking them actually to these centers. We took dozens of people,
Yeah.
right? So I think like part of it is like that's how we can raise awareness. We need in this day and age, if we're not taking photos or videos, we're limiting our reach and how much we can actually help these folks, right? And going to my own religious journey, also learning about my own the legacy that in which I come from, right? So many are gurus. We have 10 gurus in Sikh faith. Some of them sacrifice themselves to fight for the oppressed, right? Our sixth guru actually built a masjid for the less fortunate Muslim community at the time. Our ninth guru actually fought so the Hindu community can pray in peace, right? So
And that is a sense of unity. It shows like we may have different thought process and philosophy we believe in and believe, but the common thing that binds us together is our sheer humanity, that we try to uplift others and help others at the time of need. I think it's so important. You know, again, coming back to faith, that there are many people who they choose to practice their faith privately. And I think it's important that faith should be shown publicly through compassion and through service. That that should manifest itself. Because if you have God in your heart, right, as a Sikh, you have God in your heart, and you're rigid outside, and your heart is rigid outside. Can you speak to that a little bit?
See, for us, we're such a visible minority and a
Yeah.
religious group.
Yeah.
So whether for example,
So the point I'm trying to talk about faith in action rather than faith that is locked in.
yeah, no, for sure. I think like going back to the visibility part. So
Yeah.
for example, if a sick person is very visibly
Yeah.
sick, if they go and do something rigid,
Yeah.
it's a reflection. There's so many people in this work I've met, and they're like, you're the first sick person I ever met. So if my actions now are not only reflecting my value, it's reflecting my community's values as well, right? So the first experience they're getting with me or any Sikh that they encounter, that's gonna be what they remember of us as a community. So it's so important. The first action that they're witnessing is love, is joy, is peace, is service. Even going back to the migrant situation, they're like, So many brothers will come up to me and say, Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
When I told them I'm a Sikh, they go, what's that? So they learn about us doing service events, right? So I think it's so important. Not only do we hold the faith inside, but also outside in the
Yeah,
gestures that we do.
and that was a great, our presence together as an imam and a person of the Sikh faith, being out there during the incident with the migrants, because they had individuals who were literally sleeping in the metro, and when the night is up, don't know where they're gonna rest their heads or where they're gonna get their meal from, and they were in our neighborhood. And I think, you answer that call. We work together because we saw the necessity. That this is faith in action. Whenever you're called, and coming back to this, right? I remember this. I look back at the video, and I often look back in the time when we traveled to Egypt. And I just want to share this with everyone, that this opportunity presents itself. It's not a religious thing. It was a humanitarian thing, right? That we're seeing our brothers and sisters suffering in Palestine, hunger and thirst, and they don't have the resources. And this opportunity presents itself for us to go and try to seek the help how we can help. And as soon as I raised that with you, that
Because you, yeah.
yeah, I raised that with you. You did not hesitate. Say, brother, how can I go?
Yes.
And you happen to be the only non-Muslim that actually was there. Probably, I'll say, put your life in danger. Because you don't know when you go to that foreign land, when you go to Egypt, what will happen? Who will interrogate you? I spent 13 years, 11 years of my life in Cairo, from 16 to 27. I know what it is like. And you're going into, you have to expect the unexpected. But you went as that person to pack the boxes, to take those notes and put it into the box. We work in a collaborative way for 4 days, right?
Wow, it's like over 100 degrees.
Yes. What motivated you to do that
Faith,
other than the faith, right?
I think when you first brought it up to me, because I always wanted, I'll be honest, I wanted to go to Gaza itself. I knew that was impossible. But when you said, listen, we're going to be 2 or 3 hours away from the border,
Yeah.
it just melted my heart. I'm like, how can I also be a part of this and do whatever I can, right? I called the organizer, our beloved brother Vahi, and he was super excited. He was shocked, first of all. He's like, wait, what? But he made arrangements and he made it happen, right? So shout out to Bani for really giving me the opportunity to join
Yeah.
a
Me
Muslim
too, man.
delegate, some of the most distinguished Muslim leaders all across the United States in this historic effort. But I think during those 4 days, I told my parents, I told them I'm going to Greenland. I kid you not. I kid you not. Because I know the reaction was going to be, this was at the height of the conflict.
Yeah.
But I think, all the stories I read about my gurus, my faith, about them standing up for the oppressed, them standing up when things weren't cool to stand up for, or it wasn't the most convenient. I'm like, you know what? This might be our generation's moment to stand up for what's good and right. And I had to take that. I had to be the one that said, listen, I don't know what's going to happen, or what the safety looks like over there, but this is a moment when we can stand up for humanity and we have to do it. So I took that
I
leap of
think
faith.
looking back at it, if we have to do it again, we'll do it.
I wish we had more days there actually, to really make, I think even when we were there, people are so loving, and that it goes to show everything they show on the news, everything we're told, through our politicians a lot. People there were, you when we went to the
Yeah.
market, people
Yeah.
were so loving. They called me a Bollywood star. As soon as we landed at the airport, they're like, what are you doing here? Right? I'm like, listen, I'm here with my brother Mamsa. But I think like that to me was the most beautiful part. Out of your comfort zone, not even in your, you know, hemisphere, not hemisphere, but in your side of the world, and being miles and miles away from your comfort zone and really seeing the other side of the world, and knowing that they're real human lives that are being affected and devastated by these elected officials. That's what it is, right? Elected officials making decisions to marginalize and oppress those that don't have a voice.
And it's heartbroken. I think love will always prevail over hate, and we're living in a time where we're seeing an experience in polarization. We're experiencing hate, and I think faith has a lot to play, a role to play in ensuring that we advocate for the protection of human dignity and also to protect the unity that we have and people do not divide us. When we talk of faith and service, it's not only about packing food or serving food, but service also entails that there are a lot of people that is here in New York that is in depression. It's a mental crisis, right? Our youngsters in our gurdwaras, our mosques and mandirs, religious institution needs help more than listening to a sermon where the imam or the priest of a particular faith speaks about spirituality. They need to feel uh, that they're integrally involved in a community where next 5 years from now their dignity will be protected. So I think advocating for world peace is important and also ensuring that there is no hate. I know your community as a Sikh community, right, has experienced a lot of hate crime like the Muslims and that you're working tirelessly to ensure that your people is actually protected and not only your people, but also anytime there is a hate crime, whether it's both of us, we stood in the forefront of protests where there was hate that is directed to the Jewish community. I can recall myself, and this is not about me, but we're having a discussion. The first year I came to New York to be the Imam, they burned a Hindu flag at one of the local houses near the mosque. Went there. I think my good friend and brother Arsalan, he has a video clip of that where I was asked to speak, and that was people going around burning the Hindu flags and desecrating places of worship. So you are always there. You're there when the Muslims are affected, when the Sikh is affected, and that speaks also volume of you. Can you talk about how important it is for us to sensitize people? Because this is also service. You're not sticking in your basically your temple, your Sikh temple on Sundays and days of worship and forget about what's happening outside. The work, as I always say, the work is beyond the walls of the mosque, the mandirs, the churches, the synagogues, and even the temple. It's beyond the wall, right?
I think like the Bible verse says that faith without works is dead. Ironic and also sad, but when elders in our community, if we see a hate crime, they're like, oh, don't let's just sweep it under the rug. No, we can't because that's what got us to this point to begin with. Since we've been in this country, right? Like my father came in the late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah.
A lot of our folks came during that time frame. We've been just told, put your head down and work. Put your head down and work. Just take the beat. But we're living in 2026 now.
Yeah.
We have a voice. We have a platform. We need to use those platforms to actually speak truth to power. And that's why anytime we organize a rally or a press conference, trust me, I hate doing it. But I know if we don't do it, who's gonna do it? And how I see it is when my Muslim brother or sister is attacked, they're attacking me as well. Because at the end of the day, when they're attacking my people, they're attacking us because they think we're Muslim. So at the end of the day, when we can limit Islamophobia, the hope is also that it limits anti-Sikh violence as well. So I think like all these tragedies, all these pains, all this violence is interconnected, but we need to see and really believe that love thy neighbor, right? We need to make sure that we see the humanity in each other. And the only way we can see that is by sitting down, having these conversations, building community, not just when it's a great photo op or when it's convenient, we have to take a photo of Zoran Mamdani, right?
Yeah.
Like let's come together even when those things aren't happening, so we can learn about each other, our stories, and our faiths. I think that's the most important thing.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience here? Have you ever experienced as a person, right? That will be. And this is a follow up question as well. A hate crime here.
Always. It used to be so like I grew up post 9/11, right?
Yeah.
So I would face it all the time. But it was so normalized among us, right? It was so normalized, like when people call you towel head or your Osama's nephew, or like it was just we took it because we thought that we're supposed to get that. I think now we're living in a time where we're like all that wiring that was done at an early age, we're like, no, we shouldn't have taken that. We should have stood up for
It was happening so much that it becomes like a norm.
Yeah.
It becomes a normal.
like a rite of passage.
Yeah,
It's gonna it's gonna happen.
happen. So that's it. What are you going to do about it?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and that is where I want to interject and say that as community leader, I see you as a community, as a young, dynamic community leader. What do you say to people? Like that thinks that this is not affecting me. Don't worry about this. I went to a function which other day. Uh, I went to a function and I hear this uh, young girl saying, "There are two things I don't like. I don't like politics and I don't like religion. I try to keep away from that." And here is it that I'm a religious leader, and she did not shy away from saying that. And secondly, we were talking about not politics, about but what was happening around the community in terms of hate and in terms of the immigrant situation is happening.
Yeah.
And here is this young person. When I say young, I mean like she was like just over 30 or whatever, who was saying, or around there, I don't know the age, but around that
Yeah.
age, was saying, that's why I don't like politics and I don't like religion, right? So often people, they seclude themselves from this as if they're not part of this. But my thing is this, right? I ask the question, are you like that? Or are you going to think proactive that next 5 years from now, when you have your child and going out there to school, they're going to work, what society and community you're leaving behind for them? If you're going to stay back and say, this being a servant leader, advocating for humanity, advocating for peace, telling people when there is hate crime, this is wrong, stop it, right? If you don't do that, I'd say it doesn't matter what society we live in, basically for community.
See, can I be honest? That's what motivates me personally. That I think about, I don't have kids yet, but one day I will. And to me, it's like, what kind of world do I want them to raise up in, right? Also, when they have, I mean, it's gonna be a totally different generation, totally different world by that time, right? So I think like that. But again, I don't blame her
Yeah.
because for so long, young people have been told, "Go mind your own business." You're not part of the conversation. Even like, when young people try to get involved in politics, they have to they have to see so much nonsense to even be part of the system, right? So when they're being dismissed for their whole life, it's a little, it's a lot to ask them now to pay attention, like a switch, right? So I think what I would recommend to especially our parents and folks that are already involved or pay attention to current events, get your kids involved slowly, right? Make sure that they're a part of some civic activity, whether it's volunteering with the not-for-profits, whether it's going to the civic groups in your community. I think those are things that we can do early on, that because they're not teaching that in school. So if they're not teaching in school, the parents, the family members, the neighbors are the ones that have to really step up and do it at home, right? I think if we can do that, and with plus the social media advocacy that goes on, like that young person that you're talking about, I'm sure she's getting her news from social media.
Yeah.
So if we can get a young person that is social media savvy, but also grounded in their community, now you have a dynamic duo, right? And that allows you to really be real with expectation, setting expectation, but also knowing that there's this is how our community is being talked
Yeah.
about in the mass, in the broader context.
Important for us to have this continued discourse and discussion, uh, and to encourage people within our community, like you, as you said, announcements at the future. I think, and it's vital.
And if I'm not mistaken, politics and just civic engagement has been it may not be like religiously demanded,
Yeah.
but it has been a part of Islamic faith for a
Yeah.
long time, just like
Yeah.
Sikh faith.
Exactly. So in our faith, there is a spiritual component and there is active. Both of it goes hand in hand. One cannot do. So you cannot be a good Muslim without service. The Prophet, may the peace and blessings of God be with him, he said, "The best of you are those who are of service to others." And that is why I think that's why we're talking today about faith and service. We're from different background faith, but we provide a service which is enshrined in our faith.
Right.
And when we talk about politics, I always say, and I always believe that we might have different opinions about things, but the common denominator here is service, that we want the best interest of the people, right? And that is where service comes in. And we have to do this in the most respectable manner, the most professional manner, and be mindful of what we see, how we see it in that process. And set because again, it will be a distractor for young people who are saying, I don't want to be a part of
There
this.
you go.
There you go. Because we're not using the right word, we don't have our hearts behind it, right? And coming back, you experience this hate. As a Muslim, I want to say that I have experienced hate because of my faith right here. Walking on right at liberty with my Islamic attire, people will call me like derogatory names, is demeaning, so to speak, and they look at you because you dress differently. And these are people that I think they should be aware that they're in New York, they're in Queens, the most diverse place that you have. And I think having a dialogue with individuals about your faith also helps in that way.
Yeah.
So we all experience it, and we are trying to not to accept it as a norm, but to combat it through education. We had an event just to share, and I announced it at my mosque. We had an event. You were at that event, the hate crime event. We were commemorate the hate crime body from New York City. They had
Muslim
an event, the
yeah.
Muslim Heritage. They were commemorating Muslim Heritage, and as we're coming out, there's some guys there like they were using derogatory statements towards our Muslim sisters, and we were exposed to that, right?
At an event that you should have been in a safe haven.
Yeah, safe haven, safe. And lately, I think like two weeks ago, they pulled off the hijab of a Muslim sister, like you know, right here in New York, and so there is this level of hate that is here, and it can only be counteracted with love
And I think part of it
and
is
service.
also, I think, how we measure hate.
Yeah.
Only because you're Muslim or I'm Sikh or what we're experiencing, the hate we experience, should not be diminished, right? I think the way sometimes we judge hate, it also determines your background and what faith you belong to. I think, sometimes we're dismissed as of the faith we belong to, unfortunately. But if it happened to another person from another faith or another community, the whole city shuts down,
Yeah.
right? The governor comes from Albany to comfort that community. Oh, and we're not saying that's wrong. That's right. That's correct. But also help and comfort us.
They're given more priority for one community
I'm not
over
saying
the
from it.
other.
I know it, and you we see it.
Yeah.
It's like you can't tell me that like if you show me a banana, you tell me it's an apple. It is a banana. I could see, I could
Yeah.
smell it,
Yeah.
right? So you can't tell me that that's not true because we see it every single day.
Yeah.
We see it from the news outlets. We see it from our elected officials. We see it from the amount of funding communities get when these things happen to them compared to what we get and how we're perceived. Like, for example, to give you a small example, our gurdwara on 114th Street was graffiti, right? Couldn't really read out what it said. But at the end of the day, if that happened to any other community, it would have been outrage. And we would have seen statements. We would have seen videos. We would have seen press conferences. None of that happened for us.
How does that make you feel, man?
I mean, it doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel like lesser than. It makes me feel that the work is far from done. But again, that's why we do what we do, right? I think that's what the work you do, the work I do, the work so many people we know do is so important, and we can't stop.
So I want to, first of all, thank you for joining me in this particular series of podcasts and this discourse. I know there's a lot more for us to say. You want to share something, seeing that we spent our time talking about faith and service. We highlighted a little bit about the need of the community and being out there on our common denominator is humanity, right? And the importance. Anything that you want to say to the audience, as we conclude today, an encouragement as a young Sikh leader, universal.
Listen, so I think just to put a knot in it, right, and show the unity. I mean, we've talked a little bit about our collaborations, but just the love we've created by working with each other, the Muslim community, Sikh community. There's a 13-year-old girl that went missing last week, about a week and a half ago. And I posted about it after getting the image and whatnot. And the brother that helped me locate this girl within 12 hours. Think about that.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw it, as soon as I saw that post, I shared it, and
And I want to give a shout out to the brother Sagar Khan. I think you know him as well. Pakistani brother, and he got an address, and we were able to go there. And mind you, this girl was missing for 13 days at that time. The cops couldn't do anything; they couldn't find her. So the fact that a Muslim brother was able to get a tip with an address and shared it with me, we were able to reconnect the family. Again, that goes to show humanity. That goes to show service. That goes to show how much stronger we are when we work together. And I'm just grateful for your friendship, and I hope you guys all have a great Ramadan.
Yeah, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you, visiting our mosque as you normally would do. And I'll end by saying that in our faith, I'm guided by this verse. You know, that God, He says, "O mankind, we have created you from nations and tribes so that we may able to know each other." I think when we see someone different than us, that there's much more in common in terms of differences, and we have to sit and have the discourse. By having the discourse, it diffuses any tension that there is, and we call in the community, let's have this discussion. Let's have this open discussion about love and compassion and service, because people, you will be remembered by the plant, by the seed that you plant. If you plant a seed of enmity and hate and animosity and division, you will be remembered by that. We want to make sure that our legacy is left, that I'm leaving behind for our children and for our family, will be like one of service, one of love, one of compassion.
And I think especially getting to know the West Indian community now, and obviously I know my community, there's so much of that envy and that I guess like, okay, if he's or she's succeeding, I can't succeed. We need to stop that. I think there's enough room for all of us. But if we work together, we uplift one another, we can create such a beautiful world for all of us. So that's our message for Ramadan. Stay united, come together, have these beautiful conversations because there's enough hate in this world. So the only thing that can overcome hate is love.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us in this series of Ramadan, this Ramadan podcast. Looking forward uh, to have another discourse with him in the future. Thank you and have a blessed day.